What's up, Duran? What's cooking, man? Good to see you.
I am absolutely fantastic, man. How are you guys?
Doing great, man. It's the best part of my week. How could I not be good? Sue, what's up? Good to see you. Maroon, what's up? You on your way back from Kelowna?
Yeah, on the way back at the airport.
Awesome, dude.
So I'm going to be
Sweet,
in and
sweet,
out, but
sweet.
I'll be listening for the full call.
It's all good, man. How was the event? It was awesome.
It was good. You also got a shout out at the event. I
I saw
don't
that,
know if you noticed
and
a bunch of people follow you.
yeah, I did get some messages, but I also saw you giving us some love. So thank you. That's incredibly meaningful, man. It means the world to me. So thank you very much for doing that.
Of
That was
course.
super cool. Sky, what's up, my friend? Good to see you. How are you?
Good, good. Yeah, feeling good.
Awesome. I love it. Before we dive into today, let me get my life together here. I want to stop the music share. All right, cool. So before we get into what we're going to talk about today, which is like weirdly one of my favorite things to talk about and do in business around these projects. It's kind of strange because like I'm such a numbers person and this is like firmly in the qualitative work camp, but I just love it for whatever reason. So I'm really excited to kind of share with you what I have for you today. But before that, I just want to do a check-in. So we're about halfway through our time together. And the first thing I want to ask is, did any of you, I feel like I made a bit of a mistake on our last call. I didn't protect the last 5 minutes to like get really clear on like the implementation steps and like where we were to go with the goal setting stuff. So I wanted to just check in with you guys real quick and see, were any of you able to like use what we talked about last week and use them to maybe get a little bit more clear on your goals for the upcoming quarter? Sky, I see you nodding along. Is it cool we just maybe go around and share a little bit? And Sky, would you be open to kicking us off on just like how you implemented?
Yeah, so I did it. I want to say it broke me, but it was good. So I did it and I looked through the things. I actually put it into the dashboard. So like I have two
Cool.
new sheets now, for like the actual and then the goal. And it was
Okay.
good. It was like it was weird to like be like, okay, the thing that we're adjusting is the percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Because and I understood that once we looked at like, okay, that's because then we can adjust the number. Like that's what broke my brain a little bit because usually that's the thing that's the output, not the input.
Yeah.
Um, but then once I had it, I was able to say, okay, we need to. Actually, it was quite nice to see. We didn't need as much as we thought we needed, but there was one or two like, the lead magnet has to be amazing, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And did that drive or tweak any of your priorities for like the upcoming 3 months? Like where does that kind of focus you?
Yeah, 100%. It showed me the importance of email and copywriting, which, shout out to Dan. He's always like banging on about Instagram, which I love. But like
Yeah.
when you looked at the numbers, it was like email and copywriting was
Yeah.
it. So I've spoken to some people about like bringing someone in and like figuring out how to do that.
Cool. I also, if you're looking for just like a fractional contractor, I have someone who's really freaking good. So drop me a note if you want an intro.
Yes, yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah, I can
Just
help you solve that
please.
problem super fast. Um, yeah, cool. And someone I work with personally. Those are the only people I volunteer for intros or people I've worked with one-on-one myself. So
One.
cool. Guys, there's a really important principle that Sky just kind of like casually glossed over. I just want to shine a light on it for a sec. Is that like in business, it's so tempting to just think you need to do more things instead of better things, right? And like the email copy, for instance, or the quality of your lead magnet, the quality of your marketing, your ability to tap into the pain points that your customers are having, like whatever the thing is, it's so tempting to just be like, let me just ramp up ad spend. Let me just go do 15 more podcasts every single month, like Sky in your case, right? It's going to like talk to more people. And look, sometimes that's the answer. Sometimes it's like, the you to just choose violence in your marketing is get out there and just do 100x more of the thing. But it has diminishing returns. Like your calendar has a capacity, your time has a capacity, your bank account has a capacity, and like, you can't spend infinitely time or money. And, like the reason that I make the percentages the things that we can tweak in that particular worksheet is because it works exactly as designed at Sky in your case, where like it focuses us in a little bit on quality. Like how do we make the most of what we have? Because none of us are sitting here, with 50 million bucks in the bank because we just raised like a fat round of venture capital. Like we're financing this off of our customers and off of ourselves. So we got to be efficient. So Sky, I love what you took from that. Thank you. What about you, Sue? Did you go through any kind of goal setting exercise after last week?
Um, yes and no. What
Okay.
we did, or what I did, was the the spreadsheet, I did like Sky, and I put it inside the worksheet, the scorecard. And what's really cool about it is that you've got your steps of the funnel and your targets along the way. What I'm struggling with is converting it to our funnel.
Okay.
So yeah, we have a product-led motion. So we've got a free plan and converting from free to paid. So I'm just trying to figure out things like, what is the number that is converted? Is it the number converted that week, that month? Well, it'd be the average of the 3 months, but is it people that converted within the same week, or converted within the same month, or converted when they signed up 6 months ago? Because they're completely different things in some respects, right? So in terms of the funnel, bringing them in, it's got to be the same month.
Okay, interesting.
Right? Well, yeah. Is it? Or is it?
I don't know that it is. I think that I would probably track. So guys, like for Sue's context, right? You sign up for the software for a free plan, you use the software in the free plan capacity, and then you eventually bump into, I'm assuming, some type of like usage limit or feature fence where you're like, oh damn, I need that. And then you convert to paid. I wouldn't necessarily like bind it by time. I would probably just track one funnel step as like, net new free signups, and another funnel step as, like new conversions to paid, because it doesn't affect you financially necessarily if someone outside of like maybe your net profit, because you're supporting free people for longer, but it's like small potatoes compared to the big stuff we're talking about, right? Where, you really just want to see like, is my free user base growing? What is it currently at? And then like based on the number of like how many free users do I have in a given week for your scorecard, and how many people converted to paid, that'll give you a free to paid conversion percentage. So like, it's not that time binding it is not important, but I wouldn't like exclude the conversions that happen after the month, because it's still like, that is your like financial funnel. That is what's driving it, right? Because like you can absolutely, for instance, like let's say your go-to-market is effective and you get 1,000 free users, but your conversion to paid is like not that great. And you're like, damn, that's what I need to fix. If you go fix it by like tweaking the usage parameters of the free plan, and you get 30% of those 1,000 people that signed up 6 months ago all convert to paid, like that's a win that you need to be tracking. You need to see that, like you need to feel that, your team needs to feel it. That's a great data point. So I wouldn't necessarily exclude them. Does that help?
Yeah. And that's what I've been doing, is trying to figure out calculating that. So I have broken it down to converted the same day, converted within a week, converted in a month, that sort of thing. So I can track that. And in terms of the goals, I guess it's how you see the funnel, because the funnel in this case starts with people out there, right? And then they join free to paid, and then they convert, and so on. So just trying to work out tweak the details of that.
Totally. The last thing I'll leave you with on this topic, Sue, I know you have a call, or had a call with Alex as well, to kind of go a little deeper, but like, I would consider like your primary activation step. Like the thing about freemium specifically is it almost inverts the funnel a little bit, where like in most like sales-led motions, you close the deal and then they get value. And in a freemium type sense, they have to get value to close the deal. So it's probably also a bit of like, they signed up for free, how many people, like whatever your most important like feature is, like what percentage of the free accounts are using it, and you can work on that. And then what percentage of the free accounts are converting to paid. So it might be worth like measuring a key activation metric in between free and paid, because that's usually what's going to drive them to convert in the first place.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because in our case, this is talking about horses and feeding horses. And so they might convert when their horse changes from doing nothing to show jumping, right? And then they need the higher plan. So that could be 6 months, and nothing we do will change that. So maybe we have to tweak what's in the plan. I don't know, but it's an interesting problem to try and figure out how to do the numbers. It's helpful. This is.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's good that you're tracking the numbers, because that gives you the gauge to start tweaking the plan and have confidence if it's working or not.
Yeah.
Cool. I dig it. Awesome. What about you, Duran?
For me, no, I haven't had the opportunity to do so. Half the week, unfortunately, I was really sick with a stomach bug.
Bummer.
Last 3 days or so, I'm back at it.
Cool.
And then the other half has just really been, this program has been really good, but it's been requiring me to get more clarity and deep on the numbers. And I have made progress on that, but I feel like it's meaning I'm kind of like lagging behind in the weeks in terms of what I can implement. So I've had a chance to look at it, but it wouldn't have been valuable in my opinion to try to. I'm just not there yet.
Cool. All good, my friend. All good. I appreciate the check-in. Cool. Well, I'm going to use, Sue, I'm going to use you as an example for today, right? And it's a hypothetical example, but I like to teach through examples and like stories because I think that it just tends to land a little bit better. And so, if you run through your goal setting for last week, and what I'm about to say in your story is not going to be 100% correct, but I just want to use it as a proxy to like talk a little bit, right? So if the choke point in your business for this upcoming quarter is converting free users into paid, right, then most likely that's going to bubble up into some type of project that you work on over the quarter, right? Like some way to tweak let's say the plan levels, for instance, to get more of your free users converting into paid more quickly, more reliably, et cetera. And so like the thing that I'm going to talk about today is useful whether or not you have like teams doing this work for you or whether you're doing it yourself. Because like even when I'm doing projects for myself, like Taylor's seen me do this, like I will run through this exact same process, even if it's a project for me that only I'm touching. So it doesn't matter. You got a big team, small team, no team. What we're going to work through today is a wonderful way to like get super clear on your projects on the whole 9 yards. So I'm going to come back to that example in a minute because I'm going to use it to talk through, but I want to know from you guys real quick, just in the chat, like when it comes to project management in your own companies, like what's the hardest part? And honestly, don't even worry about the chat because there's only 3 people. Varun, I know you're traveling, so no worries. So let's go in order: Sky, Sue, and then Duran.
It's definitely remembering the project.
Oh God, I feel
The
that.
hardest part is like just like having a team, or sometimes maybe making a small adjustment to the project, and then the team is like, "Wait, is this the same project or is it a different project?" And I'm like, "It's obviously the same project. Like, I'm not crazy."
Yeah. It's so funny. I said that to a team a while back where, the reason that I do things the way that I'm going to teach you today is because if not, if you have a quarterly project, which is 13 weeks long, like a lot of the time it's week 11 and people are like, oh, damn, I had that project I was supposed to do this quarter. And then you like get 2 weeks worth of like frantic effort when you should have had like 13 weeks worth of focus. So literally remembering the project. Yeah, I love that. I'll chime in for Varun. Varun, I appreciate you being in the chat. So keeping everyone on track and then having to consistently follow up to see if work is happening and progress is being made. We will solve that on this call. So yeah, great ones. I've experienced those as well. Sue?
So, yeah, it's staying organized and communications. So we're so distributed and we're totally online, and
Yeah.
getting people to be clear in what they're doing and when they're doing it and communicating that and then tracking it and making sure it all. So for us, something that it should take a week or 2 weeks, takes 6 weeks or 2 months.
Yeah.
Partly
Yeah.
because we're all part-time, but aside from that, it's just that, it takes time when you don't communicate well to get something figured out, decided on, sorted out, ironed out.
All of it.
And that's back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And that's a day and another day and another day and another day. Before
Yeah.
you know it, a week's gone and nothing's happened. So that's the
That's
hardest part for us.
That's the gig. Yeah, I feel that. Duran, how about for you?
Yeah, I would say just doing what you know you need to do. So that's focus and being committed to using the framework all the way to the end of the thing.
Yeah.
Instead of getting distracted along the way.
For sure. For sure. I dig that. Well, you guys, as usual, are good fortune tellers because here's what I've seen. And this is something that I learned directly from Dan Martell when we started working together at High Speed Ventures and then in SaaS Academy, this whole concept of like a project doc and how to run it. It's fascinating how simple it can be. But the problem that happens, right, that I've found, and this is the biggest one for me, is like, a couple of you have said this, like you just don't have visibility, right? You're like running through the forest with a blindfold on. Eventually you're going to crash into a tree and you're not going to know what's happening, right? And so like that's always been a huge headache for me, especially like Sue, to your point, distributed teams, remote teams. You can't like pop your head in the hallway and be like, what's up, man? How's that project going? You gotta fall back on systems and writing in particular and having status updates. So that's a big one for sure. This other one is interesting. I didn't mention this, but I've personally experienced this one a lot where we do these projects and it's like running a race with no finish line, right? Because we haven't actually identified what completion looks like, or even what the problem is we're trying to solve from a quantitative standpoint. Grow revenue is not a goal, right? I mean, it's like the goal, for the business, but it's not a like highly targeted goal. I can be like, Alex, grow revenue, you know, and be like, okay, be right back, right? Like we got to do a little bit, you know, more focused, like finish lines on our projects. We don't know how to win. It's tough to do the work, and this is what gets projects dragging on forever. And you get like this stuff that always feels half finished because we don't even know what finished is. And the last one, you guys know you ain't getting through this day without me talking about data. Everyone ever like done a project because you feel like you should, but you're not sure like what number you're actually trying to move in the business? Like this was a really bad habit of mine, especially in my first business. I would change like project management software, or like I go from like Notion to Asana to freaking Google Drive, and like I felt so productive. I'm like, you know, look how organized I made our docs. Like it did nothing for the business. All it did is slow my team down because I had to learn new stuff every 8 weeks. So they got really good at using 15 softwares, and none of it helped any customers, made us any money. It didn't actually do anything. It just made me feel useful. So like doing projects because you feel like you should without confidence that they're moving the numbers, like these are all big problems. I mean, I feel like we're relatively aligned. What I want to leave you with is number one, above all else, and Varun, this covers what you said in the chat also, a repeatable way to plan projects on the front end so they actually make sense, and a repeatable way to report on projects along the way every single week. Shocker, my whole life runs on a weekly rhythm, yours will too, for these projects so you guys know where they stand. Now you remember, I'm assuming all of you, from our weekly sync template in week 2, that there's a section for projects. So imagine this in your mind's eye, that this is a double click on what actually happens inside that section of the weekly sync. I just want to call that up front. When I talk about reporting on this, like on a weekly basis, it's not another meeting. I hate meetings. I like to have as few of them as possible, but this is part of the weekly sync. When we say we do like the wins, the data review, the projects review, and then the discussions, this is the projects review, but this is like the double click of how it works. Is that all making sense? That is not like another check-in. It's all the same thing. All right, cool. So have a repeatable rhythm, and your project will have a clear finish line. So you just like a real foot race, you'll know when it's over. We'll talk about time constraints, talk about scope constraints. I'm going to give you guys a little sprinkle of product management to use on your projects because it's a very useful paradigm. So we'll know what the success criteria actually looks like. And of course, we'll know that you're only going to work on the projects that are most important. And you guys will need to say no to some stuff. We're going to say no to things, and it's going to be great. You might have to say no to yourself, right? The old, you know, entrepreneurial shiny object syndrome. Oh, I'm going to go switch project management software. I'm going to do whatever. Like, no, we're just going to stay focused on the things that are moving the needle. So I'm curious, we'll take to the chat for this one, but like if you guys could do inside your business everything I just said, right? What would it change? You have a repeatable rhythm. You know how projects are moving. They all have a clear finish line. You know what done looks like, and all the stuff you're doing is actually moving a needle in the business. What does that do for you guys in your company? I want to understand how you're feeling, what opportunities you see, and then we are going to talk about how the hell to actually pull this off. Let's get in the chat. Let's see what we got here. What's up, Alex? Good to see you, bro. All right. The projects will for sure help growth 100%. Like Sky, like for your example, based on the goal setting you just did, there's probably some bit of like email or copywriting improvement to bring a certain percentage from X to Y, right? So we tie it all back to the scorecard. From Varun, increases your ability to solve the problems, increase profits, bring in more resources. If you move the right needles consistently, for sure, 10x your results. Guys, like I got news for you. Like projects are not some ancillary side hustle, right? Like your business is a system, and the way that you improve the components in the system is by doing projects, right? Like that's the only reason to do a project. You're going to do something and work on it for a couple of months in order to fix a component of the system to make it run more effectively so you can get better throughput in the business. That's the only reason. This is just quality improvement. That's all it is. And so here's the way that I think about this. I'm going to switch to the iPad for just a sec. I'm going to draw a hue. I guarantee this will be the ugliest model I've ever drawn because I like invented a new shape. It's fascinating, but I couldn't think of a better way to show it. So I'm just going to do my thing. As soon as is this working? Can you guys see my screen right now? Yeah, cool. I can't find the window on my monitor, so I'm just going on faith that we got it. All right, but so basically this is the project management flywheel, but it's not a regular flywheel. There's a couple of stops on this thing. All right. Let me give you guys some steps. Step one is we assess. I'm going to draw this crazy looking loop to loop, and we're going to see how this works. All right. Plan here. I'm going to talk about what these mean. We build, we report, And then finally, project is complete. So we're moving in this type of direction. I promised you guys an ugly model. I am delivering on my promise. All right, but here's these 5 steps, and here's what it means. All right, so number 1 is we need to assess the business. Lucky for us, we already have the tools. Everyone on this call, you guys already have the tools. You're looking at your data on a weekly basis, right? After last week, you know how to do a goal setting exercise to figure out like what numbers do we need to move, what, percentages do we need to improve. So I feel like you guys are armed with the tool to get a really solid read on like how is the business working today. Does that pass the smell test? Like you guys feel like you got a pretty decent ability to do that at this point? All right, so that's number 1 is we need to base this on reality. Our projects are not based on feelings. We're not based on hunches. Your gut is important, but we try to also be data informed. Data plus anecdotes equals winning. All right. So the first thing that we do up here is we assess the business from a like quantitative standpoint. Then, only then, once we figure out what we need to fix, right? For Sue, it's your free to paid conversion. For Sky, it's your email conversion, right? And the quality of your lead magnets and copywriting, et cetera. Then we plan projects. I'm going to give you a template. I'll get to that in a minute. But there is a real planning process that goes into this. And I want to sit on this point with you guys for just a second because I am going to predict the future. And then what I see in my crystal ball is that I'm going to give you the project planning template. And you're going to be like, yeah, that looks cool, but kind of feels like a lot of work. And it might end up being like 3 or 4 pages long. And I'm just a small company and I don't want to, spend the time to do all this because this feels like big company stuff. Now, I'll tell you, I have coined a term for this. I call it big company BS. I'm trying not to cuss on my Zoom calls, but big company BS. And it's when you slow things down for no reason. I despise that. However, asterisk, every now and then, a little bit of work up front saves you a whole lot of headaches down the road. You guys experience that where like you go through something and you feel like you move epically slow for 2 or 3 months and you're like, damn, if I'd have just taken 2 hours 2 months ago to like actually think through this, I could have gone a lot faster and saved myself a lot of pain. I saw a couple of you nodding along. This planning phase is that. This is a very high leverage thing to do when you actually sit down and think through a project the way that I'm going to teach you how to do it. And it is well worth a couple of hours of your time. So I just want to plant the seed there. If it feels like it's too much, I promise you it's not. So from there, we get into this little shape I created, this little nested flywheel down here. So there's 2 steps. We build and then we report. This is what the precision scorecard does, right? So Sue, I told you I was going to use you as an example today. So like the free to paid conversion, right? The thing to realize is that we're not necessarily just building for a quarter because it fits on the calendar. And then 13 weeks from now, we're going to go ship our one big attempt at fixing free to paid conversion. Like Sue, in a quarter, you can probably make 3 or 4 different, even just call it monthly. So maybe 3 attempts to bring your free to paid conversion rate up, right? 3 little tweaks, a tweak on plan levels, a tweak on pricing, a tweak on how you're reaching out to your free users or your onboarding, the 1,000 different ways you could do it. But the point is that this is a loop. As the project is going on, we build, we deploy it, and we report. We build, we deploy it, and we report. So we are constantly like shipping all the time. And I don't want you to think about this as like a software thing. And you're like, oh, my business isn't software. What does shipping mean? So like, I'll give you a definition. Shipping means it is out the door in contact with your customers, right? So like Alex will ship an ad. That means it's on Facebook or Instagram getting served, right? Taylor will ship a Notion template for you guys like she did today, right? That means it is ready, downloadable, URL clickable, like in your hands, ready to rock. So my point is that we don't just work for a whole quarter and then make a big swing. If something feels like a big bet, that is a red flag to you guys. We like to make lots of small bets very, very quickly. All right. Small bets made very quickly. If you're writing stuff down, take that one to heart. Small bets made very quickly. That's how your business should feel, right? Little bet, little bet, little bet. Minimize downside impact and it fails. Maximize the upside when it works. That's the whole game that we play. Gosh, I wish we had more time. I'll tell you about the worst big bet I ever made, how badly I freaking paid for it. But see if we have time for that at the end. Anyway, so this is like a little nested flywheel. We build, we report over and over again. And the idea here, because we plan this up front, is that we have a goal for our free to paid conversion percentage is going to go from X% to Y% by the end of the quarter, right? And so the goal that we're chasing is by the end of the quarter, we can say, all right, this improvement has been shipped. We're good. It's complete because I hit my success criteria on time, which was the end of the quarter. So that's the idea, is that we're shipping over and over again, experimenting, iterating, testing, trying. We measure everything every single Monday. And then ideally want to get to where we get by the end of the quarter, new quarter comes up and the flywheel continues. Take a breath, reassess, figure out where we're at. All right, cool. Maybe I like the work that I did on my free to paid conversion rate, but I think I got more meat on the bone and it's still the biggest percentage that I should improve. And maybe you work on it for another quarter. That's cool. Or maybe you're like, it's good enough. I need to go get some more freemium users because now I'm converting them. Like, you have that opportunity to come up for air and check. But these are the steps. We assess, we take the time to make a real plan, right? With like actual plans in it, which I'll give you in a sec. We build, ship, report over and over again throughout the quarter with the idea of sliding through the finish line before the quarter ends. We've made the improvements we want to make, and then we do it all over again. Does that make sense? Little flywheel inside a flywheel? All right, cool. The biggest thing that I want you to take from this, there's a couple of key principles here. Biggest things I want you to take from it. Number one, take the time to make a plan. Again, I'll give you the template. I'll show you how. And number two is that we don't just work for a quarter and then ship, right? That is 100% the wrong behavior. Small bets made very frequently, minimize the downside. So those are like the key principles that I want you to take from that. All right, I'm going to give you the tea. I'm going to give you the scoop. Here's how we do it. 5 hot principles. The first one I talked about already, a quarterly cadence, but I want to tell you why. I didn't just pick it out of a hat. All right. I've tried this a number of different ways, everything from 2-week sprints and 6-week cycles, which is fine for like writing code and software development, but no, I don't love it for projects. I literally loathe annual projects, like things I'm going to work on this for a whole year. Like, anyone remember anything about a year ago in your business? Like, without like going back, it might as well be an eternity, right? Might as well be a decade. So I just think it's kind of goofy. It's almost kind of like arrogant to think that you can accurately predict where anything on earth, including but not limited to your business, will be in an entire year from now. A quarter is the right size of a bite, right? It's big enough where you can do real work. Like, Sue, if you could fix free to paid conversion percentage in a week, you'd have done it already, right? I'd be like, oh, I'll figure it out in a week. Like, it might take half the quarter just to figure out what to do. Some of these projects, guys, in your business, you may be like, damn, I need to improve that number, but I literally can't even measure it. So half the quarter might be just putting the instrumentation in place to go measure the current reality to then go improve it. Even by measuring stuff, it tends to make it better. So a quarter is the right size. You get a week, maybe 2 upfront planning. Ideally, it's 1. But in total, it's 13 weeks on the calendar, right? So if you do 1 to plan, maybe you just write off 1 for a holiday or whatever. You got really like 10 to 11 real shots on goal to fix this thing up, right? Whatever you got. 10 to 11 true weeks of making it happen. And when you think about it like that, if I say, Sky, you got 10 attempts to make your email copy drive more revenue for you, you would take all 10 of those seriously, right? You wouldn't, to your earlier point, forget the project to be like, I don't need 10. I'll do it in 2. Like, that's crazy when you say it like that. None of us would say that. We want all 10, right? But like, if we don't use the quarter to actually rationalize why we need to focus on this every week, it's so tempting to just let it slide. So quarterly cadence, plan it up front, 10 to 11 real shots on goal. That is the mindset. Second one, when we are making projects, I don't even need to ask this question, but I'm going to because it's going to be fun because I want to see you guys laugh. Who's ever bit off more than they can chew in your business before? Like hands, feet, everything, right? I mean, I'm like infamous for this. Limit yourself. Guys, I got news for you. If you don't say no to things, you have no priorities. There is no such thing as multiple top priorities. That is the craziest thing that anyone's ever said. All right, you can have 1 top priority. That means that it's the top priority. It's a stack. I call it a stack rank for a reason. Right. So the way that I like to limit myself for projects, and this is like per individual, right, is 1 new thing and 2 improvements max. And if it can be less and still get the business what it needs, that's even better. Right. So this is not a goal to say I need 3 projects. I wish you just have 1 project. But if you feel like you got to do multiple things, because I know it's not always real, especially when we're all wearing, 17 different hats, to be like only work on 1 thing, I know that's not real. But if you're going to try to do 7 different projects in a quarter, I promise you'll do 0. You won't actually move any of the needles. You'll just touch a lot of stuff. All right. So the way I like to scope this down, 1 new thing, 2 improvements, max. It's a limit, not a goal. Less is better. Does that make sense? One net new, two improvements. All right. Then we get to the fun part. I'm going to give you a link in the chat and I'm going to screen share this, but we do the upfront work. We do the upfront work. I'm going to give this to you here. Of course, we'll post it in Circle as well, but let me just screen share this and I'm going to walk through it real fast with you guys. All right. Here's the template. Each of these are picked for a very specific reason. I'll tell you what the reasons are and like what I've personally experienced filling them out. All right, so this is the template. I give it a little, give the project a little title. I love giving things titles, like make it a thing, right? Don't make it like, oh, I'm gonna, whatever, increase my free to paid conversion rate from X to Y. Like that's not a fun title, right? Like, give it a real title, bring it in, have some fun with it. But number one, short summary. We've got to get really, really laser focused and clear on what we're doing. In software, we call it scope creep, right? Where you have a feature and then you end up building 46 other things and takes you twice as long. Like a project is aimed to do one thing. You're changing one outcome in the business, you're doing one thing for your customer, you're shipping one thing, you're building one thing. Like keep it tight, summarize what you're doing here. If you can't fit this into like 3 sentences, it's not yet baked enough in your head, right? We have to build this like instinct. Complexity is bad, all right? Simple scales. Simple is where it's at. So the goal here is not to write a 10-page book report on this, all right? Like this summary, 3 sentences. You can't explain it in 3 sentences. It's not yet crystallized in your head. Also, a little pro tip, if you're really struggling with this and you're in like 3-4 paragraph land, do the rest and then come back and you'll usually have a little bit more clarity on how to trim this down. But we do a quick summary up here to make sure we know what it is we're working on. Best possible outcome and worst possible outcome. I'll tackle these together. The best possible outcome, we want to know why it's worth the time and like what we're chasing. Ideally, this is quantifiable. So this will be like my free to paid conversion rate is now 15% within 30 days. Or, my email goes from a 30% open rate to a 50% open rate. And my click-through rate goes from 2% to 5%, right? So like the best case scenarios. And then why do we care about those? Well, because of my email click-through rate is 5%, it should bring my number of sales calls from 20 per month to 35 per month, which should put me on track to exceed my Q2 revenue goals. Like the why is critical. So we do that here. The worst is a little bit different, right? I'll share, Taylor, don't let me forget this. There's this great video, random, but I'll tie it back to this. Tim Ferriss ages ago did a TED talk on stoicism, right? Which I'm sure Alex is like a geek, little Roman Empire geek boy over here. He loves that stuff. But the interesting thing is inside of that talk, he goes through this exercise that he does called fear setting instead of goal setting, right? Where when he is making a difficult decision, he'll actually write down all of like the worst case scenarios that could happen and then figure out like how he would manage those worst case scenarios in case they do happen and start to make a plan around how to mitigate them. I unabashedly robbed that. And I do the same thing here where I want to know like, what can we do if these worst possible outcomes happen? How can we get ahead of them? If nothing else, then just falling back on what I said before about like downside protection. We just want to make sure we've got some like backstops in place. None of these things in any type of project or initiative should like risk the business. So if you feel like there's a big risk, it's part of the work to make sure we get in front of it and have a plan to mitigate it. All right. So best possible outcome, worst possible outcome. Definition of done. Objective criteria. This isn't like I feel good about my emails, right? It's here's the metrics. If it's not clear enough up here in the best possible outcomes, like we get very, very granular here. And not all of this will have an outcome, like a number, right? Some of this is going to be like, I have created the knowledge base. I've written 30 articles in the knowledge base and shipped them in front of our customers. Like some of this stuff is just like a 0 or a 1. It doesn't always fit into a metric. Sometimes you just got to create some stuff. All right, so that's the next part is just like, what does the definition of done actually look like so you know when to stop working on it? These last two are pretty self-explanatory. Key dates and milestones, just like, plan out the quarter, don't leave it all to the end. I want to have my first experiment to, increase my free to paid conversion rate shipped by May 1st, have it in production, live on the software, 2 weeks to see if it starts to work, 2 weeks to assess, second iteration June 1st, so on and so on. So just let these key dates go out so you can like build yourself a plan throughout the quarter. And then what do you need? This is like, depending on your size of business, you may or might need this. If it's like you and a couple people, then every project is everybody and the money is all yours. So you probably don't need to, get super granular here, but especially if like you're, competing for budget or you need to like get somebody to help you, it really helps to scope this stuff out. But I like religiously will fill this out for any quarterly project that I do. And it's really not about what a lot of people think it's about. It's not about like sharing information. Like, yes, Taylor and Alex and the other people on my team can read it and like understand what I'm thinking. That's cool. But guys, selfishly, it's for me, right? As the project owner, I get so much value from just going through this exercise and getting clear on what the hell it is I need to do in the first place, that I do 10 times better work when I take the time to plan this out. So that's the template. Fill it out for every project. Is that making sense? I'd love to know like what comes up for you guys. Maybe let's do a quick share. We'll go Sky, Sue, and then Duran. Like what comes up for you when you read this? Is it different than what you're doing? Is it new? Does any part of it excite you or scare you? Like what are your thoughts?
I like just picking one new, two improvements that has immediately taken away so many things that I was going to do. I do have a question about the worst possible outcome. So you
Sure.
said, because so rather than say this would be terrible, we'd be on the streets, blah blah blah. Like the purpose of it is to mitigate it. Can you speak a little bit more to what that would look like?
100%. So I'm going to use your example still. We're going to rock with the same example. So let's make up a number. Let's say that our current free to paid conversion rate is 10%, right? So 1 out of 10 people who joins a free plan converts to a paying customer. And our goal, we need to bring it to 20%, right? So that's on our best possible outcome. Hooray, we get to 20%. Our revenue goes up. We're rocking. Worst possible outcome is it takes us the opposite direction and it drops to under 5. Right. So that would be bad. We're cutting our monthly recurring revenue growth in half because we like shipped the wrong thing and it went the complete opposite direction, which PS is like a very real possibility. So then the mitigation for that is like, number one, things I would think of off the cuff is like, I'm going to watch it for X number of weeks to make sure it's not a fluke, especially we don't have a lot of volume into a system. It's tough to like achieve statistical significance. Like none of our businesses right now are big enough for you to have like true mathematical statistical significance. So in absence of that, you need to like just decide like how many times do I need to see this number go down before I believe it's a real thing? And so I might think through and say like, all right, if I see, sub 5% conversion rate or a downward trend toward 5%, for 3 weeks in a row, then I'm going to consider that like a tripwire. And what would I do? My initial move I would revert back the changes to the free plan that I made to what it was before. Knowing that up front, like it sounds obvious, but knowing that up front will affect the way that you write the code. Like it'll affect the way that you ship the work. Knowing that you need to have a ripcord to roll this thing back, it might change it because in software, for Sue's example, like it's a crazy thing. Like you can do some stuff that is really hard to roll back. You go change the structure of people's data under the hood, for instance, like it's tough to go backwards on that. And Sky, like in coaching, it's actually even harder to go backwards. Once you tell a human something's going to be some kind of way, to be like, you know what, I was just kidding. I'm gonna take that thing away. Like it could be what's best for them and best for you. And they'll still be mad just because people hate change. Right. And so like coaching is, I thought it was gonna be an easier business than software when I got into it. It's way harder because you're like, there's no code. It's all people. We're so irrational and we just do all this stuff. So I would think through that, like if you deploy a change to the way that your program format works, like how long do you need to run it? And then if it's no longer serving you, like how do you roll it back or change it without making it feel like you're taking something away from your client base? Like how do you turn that into a win by actually subbing it out for whatever you think the next option would be? So like those are the things that I would think through. Is just like and like guys, it's possible to torture yourselves on this. Like I'm not saying we're going to go spend 5 weeks running through all these scenarios that haven't happened yet, but if you just have like a couple of ideas on how you'll mitigate it, know what the triggers are to be like, okay, this is actually a worst case scenario, and make sure that you don't actively build in the opposite direction, painting yourselves into a corner. Like that's really the lift we're looking for here, is just make sure that you're not working against yourself and you leave yourself an out, so we minimize the downside risk if they happen. Does that answer your question, Sky? All right, awesome. I love it. Sue, any takeaways for you?
Yeah, it's perfectly rational. And what it does is it makes it transparent and it makes you go through the steps. Don't skip any, because it's so tempting to kind of go, oh, this is going to work, and then run off and do it without thinking it through. And thinking through the best possible and worst possible can also indicate, what's the potential upside, what's the risk, and is this actually worth doing, or is this the wrong project to be following? So yeah, it's just clarity, super clarity. Yeah.
I love it. You said something really important there that I want to like just pick out and shine the spotlight on. Is this even worth doing? Like Taylor and I had a conversation about this last week. Funny, I've been like joking about the project management software stuff. We actually had that conversation inside of Precision. You know, we were looking at like just every quarter we like look at money and just be like, are we spending, are we being a good steward of the dollars inside the company? Because like spending money on software for all of us in 2025, it's like a line item that can, you know, go out of control. And we had this interesting conversation where we found a software solution that would probably be superior and cheaper to what we're doing right now, and also decided not to do it because the financial upside of the migration wasn't actually worth the effort when we balanced it against things that we should be doing to grow the companies and more adequately serve you guys. All right. So it's one of those things where like two things can be true. It can be good and also something you say no to because it's just not worth the squeeze. So as you said something that was just so important, Sue, that I want to just like pull it out for a sec, because like you're gonna have to say no to some good ideas, guys. That is literally what leadership is in a lot of ways. Varun, sorry, Duran, and then I'll get to Varun's question in the chat. Any takeaways for you?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. A question for you. Yeah, you asked if it was familiar. I'm familiar with some of the items. My question for you is, with the frameworks like this and the other wonderful frameworks that we're learning here, you often are always mentioned cadence, and you know, use it in your videos, et cetera, how important that is to keep the cadence, and you operate on the weekly basis, et cetera. How do you, for these frameworks to work, this one in particular and the others as well, how do you maintain the discipline around the cadence so that the thing gets done?
Mhm.
And how do you do that in your real world scenarios when things are changing on the business, like distraction, fires, or the team started with 3 people when you were going to do the thing, but it dwindled down to 1 person, or maybe none for like a couple of weeks and then back up? How do you protect that? Because I find that that's the biggest thing. Like, even though you know what to do, or you might have the framework, you know, here you are at the end of the quarter, you're like, oh, I had a great plan. That was all gung-ho to do that at the beginning, but it didn't actually happen. The cadence stopped halfway along the way, or et cetera, et cetera. So, because these frameworks depend on that, and you seem to be a stickler for it. So how do you make sure that that cadence happens, you know, in your real world?
That's an awesome question. I have a couple of answers for you, because there's actually two truths in what you said. Right. I want to address both scenarios. All right. So here's two things that are both true. Number one, as entrepreneurs, and I include myself in this, all of us, we do this, whether we'll admit it or not. We set goals about how we want our lives to work, right? Businesses, lives, calendars, time allocation, all of that stuff. And then sometimes we tend to like step off the discipline and don't hold ourselves to the standards that we painted. I will just put my hand up. I do that. Like, I skipped the gym this morning because I wanted to prepare for this session and a webinar I have right after, even though I said I'm not skipping the gym, but I slept in because I was feeling tired. Like, let it slip. Cool. I'll get back on it tomorrow. Right. None of us are perfect. I'm far from perfect. I'm a freaking disaster half the time, dude. But we know what good looks like, and we push towards that. So the one truth is that we all have opportunity to like improve the percentage with which we do the things we said we would do. Right. So that's part one, is like, I don't have like a science to it. I can give you some tactical stuff on like time management on how I do it, but just the principle is that like, number one is we just got to do the thing, right? And I think that we all probably have an opportunity to like raise the bar on what we allow to knock us off track. That being said, the other truth here, like what you said, if you go from 3 people to 1 person, like, I hope for your sake that's not happening like all the time. That's probably like a big deal. And so when you have a big deal thing, we also have to be intelligent enough and adaptable enough as entrepreneurs to be like, okay, like, my entire operating environment just changed. That means my priorities have to change too. And sometimes you got to take a project and postpone it or throw it in the bin because you're like, I got to deal with this other thing. Like, if Alex and Taylor both said, hey, Matt, this thing's been cool, but bye, we're out. Like, my projects would change for Q2. Don't get any ideas, you two, right? Like, my projects would change for sure. That would be like a massive problem, right? Like, in the business, we'd have to go figure it out. You guys wouldn't feel it. We'd figure it out, but like, we'd have to go figure it out. And whatever else I'm working on for Q2 is in the trash because I have bigger problems, right? So both of those things, I feel like 80% of the time, it's just us justifying that we like, oh, this is so important. I got to like go throw this in the trash. And like 80% of the time we don't. And we just need to like discipline our way through it. But 20% of the time, it might be a big deal and you might have to adjust priorities too. Before I get into like the tactical side of like the time management stuff, does that make sense, Duran? Like the way I laid it out?
Sure, it does.
Okay.
It does.
So then operating in the 80%, right? Like the business as usual type stuff. The way that I do this is it starts with time blocking. I'll make a post on Circle with like the deets on how I do this very specifically, but at a high level, every week starts with like time blocked, what we call heads down time, right? And so like I'll have these big yellow blocks in my calendar that literally just say heads down. I wish it was what it sounded like. That sounds very restful. That's not what it is, right? It's when we're doing the focus work, right? And so what we do, what Taylor and I do, what you don't need an EA to do this, you can do it yourself. I was doing it myself before I had an assistant. Is I'll have these times that are reserved. I put calendar invites in there specifically so my calendar's busy, so people know that I'm busy. So nobody's getting in there unless I sign their permission slip, right? And so I have that time blocked. And what I do is I'll go in there and I will replace those time blocks with specific things that I'm working on, right? So the goal is that I never show up on a morning and there's a block that says heads down. I'll be like, damn, what was I supposed to be doing here? So I try to get the most squeeze out of every single day I can by allocating my time throughout the day. So I don't have any like unallocated time. And it doesn't all like sometimes you get these weird 30-minute blocks. Like it's tough to do focus work in 30 minutes. But in the mornings, like I don't let anybody book into my calendar before noon unless I say yes. Right. And so from whenever I start work until noon, that's my time. And my time is spent moving projects forward. So that is like the default operating mechanism. We always will need to make exceptions at some point. That's fine. But the goal is like, if you can hit that with 80% compliance, you're doing pretty well, right? So you figure if 80% of the time you've got time blocked. For me, it's the morning. That's my creative time. But, you know, seasoning, you got to follow your own energy. But however it works for you guys, if you have that time blocked and then you look at your projects, you look at your key dates, your milestones, you prioritize them, you say, all right, this one project, my email copywriting, I need to go review these 3 test projects from these copywriters that I'm evaluating. I don't want to like punt that for a week because I want to hire one of them by Friday to stay on track. So I want to do that. That means I need 90 minutes of focus time to go through all this email copy. Bang, 90-minute square, rectangle, whatever, in the calendar, review email copy from copywriters, link all the stuff up in there, like the whole 9 yards. And it's in the calendar. It's like paint by numbers, Duran. Like if you do that up front to set your day, all you have to do is whatever your calendar tells you. You don't have to think about it anymore, right? And so like the way to protect against that is also like managing notifications and like how people reach out to you. Is like we have this kind of like, I don't know if it's ever written down. We probably should write it down. But if nothing else, it's like an unwritten thing where like if you really need someone now, you got this crazy tool. It's not Slack, it's a phone call. Right. So if someone needs me, like if I see my phone ring and Taylor or Alex or whoever's on the other end of it, I'm going to answer it. Unless I'm on a call with you guys, I'm going to answer it because like we don't normally do that. Right. And so like that also gives me the freedom where someone Slacks me something, like I'm pretty good about Slack, but like I might not check it for 3 or 4 hours if I'm focusing on stuff. And that's cool. That's the point. Right. So if you like establish that with your team, we say like, you can call me. I need you to call me if something is like urgently busted on fire, like Taylor said, right? If everyone agrees to that, awesome. Then you can let Slack chill and let email chill and do that. Let's like, let everything relax a little bit and get your work done. Right. So like that's, you got to like build these agreements into the business on how people like treat you and what they can expect out of you. And that gives you the confidence to like protect the time and know that like, I know everything's good because if something was going bonkers, my phone would ring. Other than that, I'm cool, you know. But I'll do a post in Circle more specifically on our time blocking stuff if you guys think that would be helpful. Cool. All right. Last but not least, from Varun in the chat, can the worst case scenario be the amount of money of opportunity that we'll be letting go of if we don't achieve the goal? Yes. However, I don't think that fully covers it because not only is there opportunity cost of not hitting a goal, but you also have like negative impact of poor implementation on a project, right? Like all of us can do projects trying to improve things and make it worse. I can't tell you how many things I've made worse by trying to make them better, right? We're all doing it. It's a rite of passage. If you don't think you've done that, you probably just haven't been measuring. That's the reality. Like we touch stuff and break it all the time. It's the game. So I absolutely think that opportunity cost is part of it. But the true worst case scenario is breaking something that's working by trying to make it better. And I would make sure you count the cost of that too. So that's the answer to the question there. All right, that's a template. I'll give you 2 last principles. I think we've probably covered them all, but I want to make sure we don't miss anything. Slide back here real quick. We talked about doing this work up front. Weekly reporting. I think we've covered that one, right? On the weekly sync, we talk about the projects every single week. And last but not least, and then honestly, Duran, this was your question, right? Like play defense, right? Against my little presenter note here says against urgent in air quotes stuff throughout the quarter, because we all have this stuff that feels urgent. And a lot of the time it's just noise. It's unimportant things that feel urgent that we just let it come into that heads down time to do our actual strategic work. And guys, if we do that, right, 13 weeks, 5 days of work weeks, whatever that is. So what is that? 65. I mean, it's crazy when you think about it. 65 business days in a quarter, give or take. Like, that's not a lot. Every day is 1/65th of your entire quarter of your workday. So what is that, Sky? Significant external negative consequences. I love that. If it doesn't have that, it's not urgent. Oh yeah, that's legit. That's a great way to think
I
about it. I'm
teach
blown
this
away.
whole process for ADHD because this comes up a lot.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. About like just what like feeling the pressure of something. Can you speak to it for a minute, Sky? I mean, it's your area of expertise. Is that okay?
The number one thing, yeah, the number one thing people come to me with is they're like, I have a million things all burning down immediately. So I have a dashboard that I give them where we go through everything and then we say, okay, what can you discard? What can you delegate back to people? And then the one that really goes for it is like, is it a sync in the next 24 hours or sync in the next 7 days? Anything outside of that is not urgent.
Love that. That's so cool because like I would imagine for the clients you're working with, it helps like remove the emotionality from it, right? And lets you kind of just look at it a little bit more logically.
Yeah, when you do like hundreds of these, most people, whether they're running 6 and 7 figure businesses or wherever, never have more than 5 things that are truly urgent in their week. And that
Yeah.
really changes for the time blocking, because then we do exactly what you said, the time blocking the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, I love it. I'm super curious, like when I post the time blocking thing in Circle, like how that overlaps with what you teach your clients too. I'd imagine I mean, I
It
learned a
does,
lot of it
yeah.
from Dan. Yeah, I learned a lot of it from Dan. He's very public about his, journey overcoming ADHD. So I think there was probably a lot there, but that'll overlap. That's super cool. All right, guys, we're closing in on time. I want to take a second before we go to Q&A because I promise you I'll run that right up to the last second that we have, like I always do. And I want to give you the action item, the implementation step for this week. You can probably guess what it is. I want you to take your most important project, and I want you to write it up and post it in Circle using the agenda here, using this format. I get super clear on it. If you feel like there's some stuff you don't want to share, like, revenue, whatever, you can, put some asterisks in or, redact whatever you want. But outside of that, I would love for you guys to just get super clear. You don't have to do it for 1,000 projects. I don't want you to do, 1,000,000,000 hours of work on this, but I just want you to take whatever the most important thing this quarter is in your business and put the thought into doing it, because I know that even if you do nothing else and we part ways at the end of this boot camp and we never get to hang out again, which would make me super sad, I know that you will still get some lift in your business simply by going through the work of planning this project out in a meticulous fashion. So that's what I'm going to push you to do between now and our next call. Are we down? Top project? Good to go? We on board? All right. Sky, yes. Susan, yes. Duran, yes. Taylor, you got your thumbs up. You're going to be writing projects up too. Let's go. All right, cool. With that, got 5 or 6 minutes. I'm all yours for Q&A, whatever you guys got. And if we don't get to it today, please post it in the community and I'll get you an answer there. But with that, I'm all yours. Who's got something you want to rock through? Sky, you're up.
Yeah, I've got one. I guess my biggest one is just like sort of double clicking on the idea of the new. So for me, it's sort of a question of, we need to figure out better the email process. We use MailerLite. It's really old and janky, and so I need to figure out like what the new thing is, because if we say, okay, we're gonna switch to ConvertKit, that could be new, but it might not give us what we need. What we actually need is a system that says where people are coming, who they are, why they're there. Like, how do I explain the project in a way that gets us that and isn't just like, oh, we use a new system now.
Right, for sure. So it's like it's outcome oriented work is the way that I think of it, right? Like the tool the tool matters. I almost said it wrong. The tool matters, but it shouldn't matter in the scope of the project, right? So like the scope of the project probably isn't switch to ConvertKit, right? The scope of the project is being able, I'm shooting from the hip here, but like being able to visualize and like instrument your client journey, being able to send emails to like top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel in order to convert more sales conversations, right? So on and so on and so on. And so I would start by writing it up that way. And the way that I look at software purchases is I make it's going to sound very like enterprise, don't overbuild it, but like I'll make essentially a list of requirements, right? It was like, what do I need this software to do? And then I'll look at least three, and make the decision from there. Now I don't do this for everything, but there's two triggers for me to actually do like a requirements list. Time cost and money cost. So when I'm spending a bunch of cash on something, I want to make sure I look at 3 vendors. But in your case, switching email providers, pardon the expression, huge pain in the ass, right? You don't want to do it often. So even though the cost of a ConvertKit subscription is trivial, or any other ones is trivial too, like it's not a financial outlay, it's an effort outlay big time. And it's one that you don't want to do more than once. So in that particular case, I would figure out like what world-class looks like for you just based on outcomes. Like what do you want to be true? And then I would look at ConvertKit. I would look at Bento is one that I use. So the Australian founder is freaking great, actually. Super happy with them for the most part. A couple of the other ones, ActiveCampaign, whatever. And I would just look at a few of these systems and like that might be part of the work. You might spend a week just, comparison shopping against your like desired list of outcomes. And I would use that instead of like scoping the solution up front, right? Because especially if you delegate it to a team, this is where I've messed up in the past, right? Like I'll role play this with Alex real quick. Like if I was like, Alex, I don't like Bento anymore, let's move to ConvertKit. Even if ConvertKit sucks in his mind, he won't do this because he's a pretty high agency dude, but like in general, if you say that to a team member, they're going to be like, okay, boss said ConvertKit, let's go make ConvertKit go, right? And then we end up a quarter down the road and it's worse. And I'll be like, Alex, why does this suck? And he's like, well, you told me you had to use ConvertKit. Like it doesn't do this, 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 or this. You're like, damn, like we failed and it's my fault. He did a really good job putting us under the wrong tool because I didn't speak in outcomes, right? So instead, right, option B is like, yo, Alex, like I can't see how many emails Sky has gotten and I don't know how long she's been in our funnel. And I don't have any way to segment, like, can you solve this problem for me this quarter? And it might be like use the tool we already have better, or it might be rip out the tool. And like a pro tip here, you may need to give your team, if you're shipping some of this to your team, explicit permission on like what is on the table, right? So like in that particular case, I would say, Alex, just so we're on the same page, I don't care what tool we use. I'm open to moving if you think that we have to. I'm open to spending up to $500 a month on a new platform or on extra technology or whatever if we have to. Also, if you think we need more, if you think I'm being cheap and you can get us ROI on it, make a case. That's cool. I always want to hear it. But like basically all I care about are the outcomes. I'm not married to anything we're currently doing and there's no rules other than please go figure out how to win before the quarter's over. And like I'll say things like that frequently so people know that they're not pigeonholed because they will invent requirements that aren't true if you don't explicitly tell them they don't exist. So I just went like 15 different places, but does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, awesome, for sure. Cool. Got 2 minutes left. Anyone else got a quick one?
Yeah, I got a quick one. Just wanted to know with regard follow up to the framework question. Do you ever engage your team to hold you accountable to, or to hold each other accountable to keeping the framework? Like saying to Taylor or or to Alex, listen, this is how we decided to do the thing. So if I ever just kind of go, it's not necessary in this case or whatever, you hold me to the thing. Or I mean, do you guys ever,
Yes. So I will tell you guys, that is one of the most important parts about having an assistant, EA, chief of staff, whatever, as a CEO. The problem with being a CEO is you don't have a boss, right? So like, and we just inherently will like let ourselves slide sometimes. Most people do that. I do that. We're all human. I mean, Taylor, if you had to put a number on it, what percentage of your job is holding me accountable?
99.8%.
Damn, it was rough out here today. Right. But like, that's a big part of it is like, and again, like when we first started working together, I had to give her permission to be like, look, I want you to like get on me if I start to drop the ball. Like we all need someone like that. And especially like sometimes co-founders will solve that, you know what I mean? But if you don't have that person, like empower someone on your team to be that person, right? Like, yes, self-discipline is key. And yes, in an ideal world, if I were to like pump you guys up with a bunch of platitudes. I'll just be like, let's just be 100% disciplined and perfection. But like, we're all humans. We're all going to wake up on the wrong side of the bed and have a crappy night's sleep and skip the gym and have a freaking milkshake for breakfast or something. You know what I mean? Whatever. Like, we're going to have like these weird days. I didn't have a milkshake for breakfast, I promise. But we're going to have these weird days. We're going to be off our game. We're just irrational, like human beings walking around the earth trying to figure stuff out. So you will increase the likelihood of winning if you have somebody else to help hold you accountable, because it's just statistically a lot less likely that you're both going to have a crappy day on the same day. And if you do, maybe it's just going to be a bad day. But like, that is my accountability mechanism, is I give my team, it's not just Taylor, I give my team specific, explicit permission to call me out anytime they see me dropping the ball, anytime they see me slipping. And I also will lead by example by publicly owning, or privately, depending on the context. Like, if I feel like I've dropped the ball, I will call myself out. And I did that on a phone call with Taylor today, right? Like, and it's just one of these things where leading by example and showing like none of us are above reproach. None of us are perfect. We all have flaws. We're all going to miss. And like, a team means that we prop each other up, and like true, like, love and respect to me is about like having the courage to hold someone accountable. It's so easy to be like, you're great. Like, Duran, you're amazing. You're the greatest thing since sliced bread. I'd follow you anywhere. Like, that's cool. But it doesn't actually mean anything unless the person who's saying it is also like, hey, Duran, I really don't appreciate how you said you do this thing and you didn't, because it made me feel XYZ and I feel like it hurt the business. Like, if you know you had someone in your world who will say that and then they give you a compliment, you're like, damn, I did a great job, because like, I know they'll give me the business if I dropped it. So like, it's a whole culture inside the company. I want everyone to hold me accountable. I want them to feel empowered to beat the crap out of me, because I need it. We all need it. Like, none of us are perfect. That's the real talk for me, man. That's how I approach it. Does that help?
Appreciate that, man. Thanks, Hades.
For sure. Cool. We got -2 minutes left. I apologize for being a little bit over. I want to be respectful of your guys' time. Write up a project, post it in Circle, do it quickly so I can give you good feedback. We'll get in there and give you guys individual feedback on it. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll see you guys in there. I'll see you next week for session 5. All the love for you guys in the world. Thank you so much. Talk soon. See you guys.
Thanks, Matt.